Hi guys, it's me, Mr. Dan1268, otherwise known as The Dan, and today we're going to go ahead and continue on with the consoles to collect throughout the year of 2026, and the console that I highly recommend you guys go out and start collecting for is the Nintendo Switch. This is the first generation model. There are 3 different physical types of Nintendo Switch, but there is multiple versions of this specific design of the Switch, which I'll go on to with the 3 models that we do have on hand, and I'll go over a couple of games, and I may even show you a couple of prices that I've been seeing on Facebook Marketplace. You can go to Cash Converters here in Australia. EB Games is having some sales on some Nintendo Switch games, but I recommend trying to avoid EB Games when you're trying to get games cheap. Wait till they do the 2-for-1, or you get the 1-for-4 deals, which they sometimes come around when the consoles are trying to remove the stock, is when you want to go and get them. So I'm going to go over a couple of games and we'll see, and I'll show you a couple of games that I recommend you guys going to get for the Nintendo Switch. Okay, so I'm going to go over a stack of games here that I recommend you guys go ahead and grab for the original Switch. Now, the good thing about the Switch 2 is that all these games are backwards compatible. I believe there's like 1 or 2 games. I think the Nintendo Labo games aren't compatible just because of the size and you've got to use all the cardboard. But these games all work on the Switch 2 and they run better on the Switch 2. So just think you could get yourself a regular Switch and then upgrade down the line, and you don't even have to change out much other than just the physical hardware. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but you can get these games cheap now, upgrade your Switch later. So we're going to go over a stack of games that I highly recommend you guys go ahead and grab. So the first one off the bat has to be Skyrim. Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch, especially the Switch 2 version, is so good. It's so good having Skyrim on the go. It's one of those games that really lends itself well to being on a Switch. Obviously playing it on PC with all the mods, but this is the way I recommend playing it on the go, unless you have maybe a Steam Deck or Rogue Ally. It's probably one of the better ones. All right, so we'll go on to the next game. So the next game here is Crash Bandicoot CTR Nitro Fueled. This game, I love it. I probably would play this more on the PS4 and Xbox, but on the go, it's the only way to play it unless you play the games on some other hardware and not get in trouble from the Nintendo lawyers. So that's right, CRT. It's incredible. It is probably my second favorite Crash Bandicoot racing game, next to the original and obviously Nitro Kart. All right, on to the next game. So the next game we got here is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1-2, or 2 plus 2. This is the better of the remakes. I didn't hate the newer Tony Hawk 3+4, but I feel as though removing the open world in 4 did some damage to it, because there's so much content in 4 that's gone and it's not there anymore, and it kind of isn't as entertaining as the original release. But don't get me wrong, 3+4 is still an incredible remake. It's still good fun. It basically just makes 3 to 4. That's all it does. Okay, on to the next one. The next one is the Mrs. favorite game, the Mrs. Parent's favorite game, and I think her sister is also, both of them. Animal Crossing, I've seen them play like, probably 300 hours or so in Animal Crossing, going through the treasure islands and doing all those mumbo-jumbo things so you can get more stuff. I did play this, I think, when did this come out? It came out in, I think, 2020? I think it came out in 2020, yeah. I think this came out with Doom Eternal. I still remember I picked up this and I picked up Doom Eternal, and I played this more than Doom Eternal. And then I eventually played Doom Eternal. I remember all the memes people made. I think I had Ronald Weasley eating chicken on my wall in the game for fun, but yeah, that's one of those good games. All right, on to the next one. The next one I recommend is you get the Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Now, Nintendo doesn't print this anymore. I'll have to check the prices. I can't imagine it being too much because there's a lot of them sold, but because they don't print them anymore, it can go a little bit high up. But the reason why I recommend this one is because it comes with 3 great Mario games all in one. You get Super Mario 64, you get Sunshine, which is my favorite one out of the 3, and you get Galaxy. I've never completed Galaxy. It's one of the things that I know I should definitely do, and we can do that on Retro Achievements because it is on there. So we'll play the Wii version of that. All right, next game we got here is obviously Red Dead Redemption on the Switch. Do I need to say more? It comes with Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare. Undead Nightmare, I wish they would do Undead Nightmare 2 on Red Dead Redemption 2, but we're never going to get that. GTA 6 is in the pipelines, and I'm really hoping we get some news about it soon. All right, next game we got here is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This one here is such a great game. I believe it's a remake of the Game Boy There was a Game Boy game of this one. I got this one when the Switch Lite came out. And this game here is best played handheld rather than on the TV, I find, because it's a really small game. It's really entertaining. All right, on to the next one here. We have Super Mario Maker 2. This one here is for all you Mario fans that like the 2D side scrollers, because you can basically make every level, play any level, download levels. It is so much fun and it's so stressful. This is definitely a game we're going to play on stream at some point. And when you have a Nintendo console, you have to have a Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 is probably... I like Mario Kart World, but I think 8 is just slightly better, but maybe that's because it's had a long time to cook. Like, this thing came out on the Wii U. That's how old this one is, and I recommend getting Mario Kart 8. Alright, and on to the next one. The next one here, obviously, you have to have Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Do I need to say more? Like, it's a better version of Breath of the Wild. And playing it on the Switch too, you get all the updates and all the patches. I remember this one here was the one that I played on a... and you can play it in... without any stuttering, because if you have a really good computer, you can play this game. It's a really beautiful graphic. All right, and on to the next game. The next game we got here is obviously Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the last game with Banjo and Kazooie in it for the DLC. Microsoft, where's my Banjo Kazooie? I've got one thing. It's just a DLC, and it was so good. I still remember the day when it got announced. It was like, oh my goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire, it's back. And then we heard nothing. Like, just make me another Banjo-Kazooie. Like, this is a great game with all the characters. Obviously, it's a good Smash Brothers game, but just give me more Microsoft. All right, on to the next game here. The next game that I highly recommend you guys to go and grab is a franchise that I love. I like the first two games better, but the third one is really good on the Switch. I didn't think it'd be that good on the Switch because there's a lot of Switch ports that don't do too well, but this one is incredible. This one here is Saints Row the Third. Freaking phenomenal game. It's a great open world game to play on the Switch. Obviously, it's a little bit of an older title from like the 360 era, which is the best ones that you want to get that are ported to the Switch, because they generally play a little bit better. And obviously, the game that I said on the Xbox One, the PS4, and now the Switch, Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. Do I need to say any more? Like, it's Crash on the go. Bingo bango, break that box. All right, and on to the last 4 games we've got here. One of the last ones here we got is Super Mario Wonder. I only got this really late because I always wanted to play it, always wanted to try it out. I didn't play it till I got it on the Switch too. But this one on the OLED is so good because it's such a bright, colorful game that it leans itself really well to the OLED model. Okay, down to the last 3 games. Now, this game here is actually my favorite Mario game of all time. Like, all time. Favorite game is Super Mario Odyssey. This game I got when I got my Switch, my original Switch. I got this with Mario Kart. I remember putting this in, playing it. I beat the entire thing. I was on a train once. I remember I was on a train to go to work. I accidentally forgot to get off my stop because I was playing it so damn much that I forgot where I was. It was so good. It's so immersive. I love the ability with your hat, which is clippy, which I definitely should get a Mario hat for these videos at some point. Maybe we'll have to get that when we go to Japan. But no, I recommend getting Super Mario Odyssey, probably the best Mario game on the Switch. All right, and on to the last 2 games. Here we have LA Noire. LA Noire is such a phenomenal game. It's one of the games that I am recommending to the missus to go and play, as it's a true crime game where you actually go to the crime scenes, you find all the evidence, and then once you've got all the evidence, you go and interrogate the victims, or you may go and interrogate who you think is the person that did the killing of whichever character has died. It is so good. I want to play it in VR. I know there's a VR version of that, which VR games may come into this channel at some point. There's something I want to do which includes retro and VR, but I'll show you guys that in a later video. And the best game on the Nintendo Switch is quite clearly Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Best game on the Switch, hands down. I played the bejesus out of this thing on the Switch. I played the bejesus out of this thing on a on the Rec. So we won't say where it is because I don't want to get in trouble with Nintendo, and Nintendo sponsor me. All right, so we've gone over a couple of games here. Now we're going to go ahead and go over the physical consoles that you can get for the Nintendo Switch. There are 3 different physical versions, but there's obviously different models, right? No matter what console you do buy, there will always be other models of it. Like Sony's really known for it. They will cut things out of the console to make it cheaper and cheaper for themselves to produce. Same thing goes for Nintendo, and obviously this model here is the first generation of Nintendo Switches, which means that it is really highly desirable for modding and hacking, because you don't need a mod chip to hack this version of the Switch. All you need is simply a little piece of aluminum foil that you put in here, and you can get all that stuff. That's for another different type of channel. If you want to find that out, you can Google how to do that. We don't really want to do that because it invades piracy, and we don't do piracy here on this channel. So this is the original model with the Joy-Cons here. They just obviously would just slide on in here with the terrible kickstand that doesn't do much. Now, one of the things I do recommend you guys doing if you're going to go ahead and get yourself a Nintendo Switch is I recommend you guys go ahead and get yourself an SD card. Get yourself a decent sized one. I believe this is a 128 gigs, just so you can make sure you can save all your games and downloads and do all those kind of bits and bobs. So we'll go over the next hardware revision. Okay, so we're going to go over the cheapest Nintendo Switch that you can purchase, and that is the Nintendo Switch Lite. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the Lite. People love the Lite. I actually really do enjoy the Lite. I think it's the best way to play Switch games portably because it doesn't have Joy-Cons, which means that it feels more sturdy and it feels more stable, and I feel as though it's the right size for you guys to be able to view your game, hold it in your hands, and it's more portable than the other Switch models that I've found. Now, the only caveat about this Switch is it is unable to plug into your TV. So that's the only downside. But if you do want to collect Switch games and you just want to play on the Switch, get this one and you get yourself a boatload of games, way cheaper. The hardware is the exact same amongst all 3. There's no difference other than just the screen and maybe the ability to dock it into your TV. All right, so we'll go over the last model of the Switch. Okay, so we're going to go with the last model. This is the Mrs. Switch. Her Switch OLED. She used this for literal years. Probably played a lot of Animal Crossing. Yep. Now, this one here is obviously like the Pro Switch. If you want the best screen, this one feels the most solid. It's a lot heavier than the Switch Lite and obviously the original Switch. The differences is obviously it's an OLED panel. I believe the back is made out of more durable plastic, and I believe the screen is actually glass where this one's plastic. The differences are they actually have a real kickstand, so you can see it's got an actual proper kickstand. I think the Switch 2 does have the better kickstand now. Obviously, it's newer. So yeah, realistically, you can be happy with either of these. If you're gonna go ahead and get yourself the all-in-one Switch, being able to plug into the TV and do all that kind of stuff, I would recommend trying to get the OLED model. But if you don't care about the screen, I would go ahead and get yourself a Switch One, which you can go and buy brand new. Don't recommend buying it brand new because there's so many out there secondhand. You can buy it secondhand, replace the battery, bing bang boom, it's brand new. Or you can get yourself an OLED model. If you're going to get the OLED model, don't get it secondhand, get it brand new, because it's an OLED screen. It means it can have burn-in, whereas an old LED, LCD one is less likely to have that on their screen. So that's my recommendation for the Switch hardware, and we're going to go ahead and go over a little story about the Nintendo Switch. All right, so we have gone over some hardware and some games. We've gone over the different models and which ones I recommend to go and purchase. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to do a basic search on Facebook Marketplace, which quite a lot of you guys have Facebook, which is the best place that I recommend to just get an idea of pricing. You can go to brick and mortar stores. They're going to charge more, and eBay. I recommend Facebook Marketplace because you can go on here, you can negotiate with the seller. You might be able to get $50 off, or they may have games that they may want to tack on and say, hey, if you pay $50, we may throw in some games, you know? So, for example, here, so we got an original Switch for $200. That comes with the console, some games. Obviously, it comes with a dock. Make sure if you're going to buy a Switch One, get it with a dock. We got a Switch OLED here for $200. That's actually pretty good. We got another one here for $100. A Switch Lite, $100. We got another Nintendo Switch, $180. We got an OLED one in the box for $270. So yeah, there's even Pokemon ones. Yeah, look, you can just get yourself some really decently cheap ones. Here's one that we maybe looking to get for the misses, just for the collection's sake, and it's the Animal Crossing Switch, which would be just awesome to kind of have for the collection. Obviously, we're probably not going to really play the Switch one, but sometimes you collect things for collecting, you know. So yeah, so little story about the first Switch is I remember that was my first big purchase that I did when I first got my big boy job. So I left McDonald's and I went and worked for an actual real corporate company, and I got a really good pay. My first pay, I remember I got a Switch One, and I got Mario Kart, and I got Super Mario Odyssey. I still remember I was on the train going home, and I was so impatient that I opened it up on the train, and I was like, "Ooh, look! I got the one with, obviously, if you're gonna get the Switch one, you got to get it with the red and the blue controllers, right? Not the black. That one's a bit boring." But I still remember I had it, and I turned it on, and I was like, "Oh, I can set this up on the train." I was like, "Oh, I'm playing the game." And I was like, "Oh," and then when I got to my last stop, I was like, "Oh, I got to get home so quick." So I booked that Uber, I got home because I didn't have a car at this point. I was at home, I set it all up, and I played that thing all night. I got Mario Kart, and then digitally I got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because when I got home, I was like, I'm going to play this game digitally, right? And then obviously needed a physical copy at some point. And that's how I got the physical one. All right, so that's a little story about the Switch. So this is the reason why I recommend you guys go ahead and collect the Switch. As you can see, the hardware's getting pretty cheap, and some of those games are pretty cheap too, especially the third-party ones. Those ones are super cheap. The Nintendo ones are always going to keep their value and be expensive. That's always the thing that kind of sucks, but that's what it is. So this is me, Mr. Dan1268, otherwise known as the Dan. Go ahead and check us out on the live streams. The live streams are on both YouTube and Twitch. So if you guys want to follow along on Twitch, you can. If you want to follow along on YouTube, you can. Those happen at 6 o'clock Australian time, or Melbourne time. So yeah, so we'll see you guys there. This is me, Mr. Dan1268. Remember to hit that notification bell. Ding dong the fucking bell. Bash it with your fingers, or bash it with your damn mouse, or bash it with your TV remote. I don't care what you do. Beat the shit out of that bell, so that way you know when Mr. Dan1268 releases another video. I'll catch you guys then. Just remember, keep it retro.